Welcome to Readings from the Animal Kingdom with Kareema from Pet Care Magic. I'm an animal communicator, a Reiki master who specialises in animals, and an intuitive psychic. And I like to combine all of those modalities into channeling messages from the animal kingdom for myself and for others. We live within a community of not only people, but a community of many, many wild animals, as well as many domesticated animals. You might have dogs or cats or fish or birds or rats or mice or whatever in your home, tarantulas, if that's the sort of animal you love, in your home. But then there's also a huge number of animals outside of your home, from big to small, up in the sky, down in the earth, even under the earth, in the trees, right around us. And all of those animals at any particular point in time may or may not have a message for you. And I'm going to invite you through these readings done every week on a Sunday, hopefully, to listen to that message, take what resonates for you, and open up your way of thinking over the following week into how that message does or doesn't fit into your life. It's okay if it doesn't. It's okay if only some of it does. That is 100% up to you. The animal kingdom has no egos. They don't mind. They just hang around out there, and if they're given an opportunity to communicate a message, they will. Each week will have a particular theme to it. Before I start the reading, I will meditate on what animal I think has the overarching message for that week. And I will then choose which of the numerous animal-themed decks I have to work out which deck I will be using for that reading. So this week, I thought long and hard, and I asked a number of times the animal kingdom a number of times about which of you is the animal that's going to represent us this week, or even nature. Sometimes I've had nature as well, because last week it was waves. And all I kept hearing was all of us. I kept hearing collective answers to everything I kept asking. It wasn't about, I'm an elephant, or I'm a fish, or I'm a bird, or I'm even a specific animal within a species, because sometimes that's what comes to me. I got all of us. So I took my general picture, which sort of is quite a number of different animal species, by no means all of them, but sort of probably some of the more common ones, wild and domesticated. And, including things like, your slugs and your ants and your bees and all those sort of awful things that sometimes we hate. And I put them together and said, okay, so we're going to draw this week off a broader, more collective wisdom, not anything specific. Sorry, I can't get my words out today. It's quite hot here where I am in Australia. It's sort of heat wave. They're saying heat wave conditions, but it's not wide. It's only, what is it? It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Sydney. It is weather. It is, come on, hurry up, app. Doesn't want to turn on. It's 31.1, feels like 31.4 here on the mid-north coast of New South Wales, halfway between Sydney and Brisbane. So I'm a little bit foggy, and it's getting very, very close to the end of the year, and I'm getting even foggier because of that. So it feels to me like the animal kingdom is holding space for us this week in a collective way. And when I get into the cards, you'll understand a little bit more about that as well, rather than being the wisdom of a specific species or type of animal, even an animal within that species. Like we've had the king parrots, and we've had the red-bellied black snake. We've had all sorts of things over recent weeks, and then last week we had the surf. The animal kingdom seems to be saying to me this week that they're going to be collectively guiding us. I hope that makes sense, because I'm not quite sure how that, and that's why I'm struggling a little bit, because I don't normally have a reading where I get collective wisdom coming through. So honestly, I don't know how this is going to work, but let's wing it. Today's deck is come on, play. We're back to the Saltwater Reading Cards.
As I mentioned, last week was the first live reading I'd done for others with this card deck. To be perfectly honest, I'm not sure whether it's the fact it's been really hot here in Australia all this week, and I'm craving the water, the sort of cooling effect of this deck. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's a deck that, like, I looked at all my other decks and I asked all my other decks, of which I have a few that are animal based. I've got a few that are non-animal based as well, and I kept being drawn back to these ones. So here's what it is. It is this deck this week.
I'll invite you now to click pause on the video, look at the card A, B, and C, and jot down either in the comments below or on a piece of paper, wherever you think is appropriate, which card resonates most for you. This is not something you have to do within seconds. It might take you a couple of minutes. At this point, you might walk away and say, I'm not going to do this today. That's all very fine. But is it A, B, or C that most calls to you?
So I'll just give you a little minute to have a little think about that. So the first card that's come out here this week is the Blue Groper. And the Blue Groper was, I think, the first of our cards last week as well. And I was a bit confused when I pulled this. I always think to myself, oh God, did I shuffle the deck well enough? But the answer is yes, I did. And the other part of that answer is the card that comes out is the card that needs to come out. It's not the card that what I'm trying to say is there's no accident to this. I've proven over and over and over again that no matter how you shuffle and no matter how you cut a deck or choose which card it's going to be. So my method is that I will actually these cards are quite big. They're not your standard playing card size. They're much bigger. So it's very hard it's almost impossible actually to just shuffle them per se. And I'm trying to get rid of that line down the bottom. I don't know how it wants to. Oops. So what I do is I tend to touch the cards a lot. I'll usually put them out on the desktop and start to shuffle, start to sort of move them around, pick some up, put some down, pick a few up, put a few more down, and then usually I'll think, okay, so what's the first card? And usually there's a card that's like I'm drawn to. There's a card that's usually saying it's me. So for like it or not, that's what this was. So when I drew this, I said to the Blue Groper, but you came out last week. And what I very quickly heard was, yes, but I didn't feel heard. Okay. So my apologies, Mr. Blue Groper. Did we do you a disservice last week? Do you have more to tell us? What is it about when you came out last week? Was it that we didn't hear your message, or maybe some people you think didn't hear your message, or maybe you just need to tell the message again? And look, to be perfectly honest with you, I can't remember what last week's message is. I tend to live very, very much in the moment when I'm doing these readings or any sort of energy work. I sit very much in the moment, and like most energy workers, we're usually not sitting in very strong consciousness of what we're saying or thinking or doing. So I honestly can't remember what he said. The only one I do remember is he did say, I live in the shallows, and it's a very big fish that lives in the shallows, which was a bit out of whack for like you don't normally have big fish living in the shallows. I do remember that's what he said. And funny, I just picked up the book to have a little quick look at it, and it quickly went straight to the right page in the book, which is interesting. Oh, that's right. And there was quite a bit about masculine versus feminine traits. And when I did go down that rabbit hole last week of how the world is changing and how we're perceiving biological gender to be very fluid nowadays, particularly in our younger generations. And that his strong message last week was you need to embrace all or any of the qualities that are available to us as human beings, to not be stuck in the biological sex of a person is masculine, and therefore they must look a certain way, act a certain way. They must, dress a certain way, have their hair done a certain way, not like if it's a man, not use makeup, not dress in more feminine clothing, not have more feminine qualities. And yeah, so the blue groper is really saying that he felt, and it was very much a he when I keep looking at this card, not only because it's always the males that are the brighter colours in the animal kingdom than other females, but it's got a very masculine energy. So I think I'm pretty sure what he's saying to us is that message, just in a short period of time, in 1 week, is a message that isn't long enough. That the message needs to go for longer, and that it needs to be something that you don't just think about within 1 week, that you think about over a much longer period of time, that it becomes something that is always there for you, rather than just, oh yeah, okay, that's something we need to contemplate for a very short period of time. He's very much saying that this is something that needs to become ingrained within the way we think. Again, come back to the collective consciousness of the animal kingdom overriding this, the animal kingdom is collective overriding this reading today. They're reinforcing that. So things like sexuality is often fluid within the animal kingdom. So I've got, I've bred dogs for many, many years. I've also in the past bred cats and all sorts of other animals. But currently it's just dogs. So you will get things like a female's coming into season, particularly in dogs, and therefore you get other females like humping her. You'll get desexed males humping females. Even desexed females. Like the whole thing of sexuality is often very grey. You'll get all sorts of things like in the animal kingdom where, I think it was this reading last week, where, or was it the groper? Maybe it was the groper, where one is, just trying to think, I think it might have been the groper. They start in life as brown coloured juveniles, and they're all female. So yeah, that in the animal kingdom you get a lot of fluidity between sexual roles. You can also get things like various worms and things where male and female are within the same body. It's a lot less defined, and collectively, the animal kingdom is saying, don't stereotype. Don't look at the physiology of the creature in front of you and assume male sexual genitalia means it's got A, B, C, D, and E characteristics, because that's not true. And so I'm just sort of pausing while I see whether the blue groper's got anything else more to say. And the answer is, well, really no. That is a very strong message. And I suppose being so close to Christmas, because I think Christmas is tomorrow week, if my memory is correct, but that's not always the case. 17th, Christmas Day is, tomorrow week. I suppose it gets back to that, and how we raise our next generation of children. Certainly I've seen incredible changes. So I was born in 1961. The way I was raised in the 60s compared to what happened in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, 2010, and now 2021, 2020, it's really changed an incredible amount for collectively for humans, but not necessarily within individual families. Again, that's the sort of thing that's coming across here in this reading today. It's about collectively we need to start thinking together as a group rather than just individuals. The blue group is really, I mean, the other thing that just sort of came into my head is celebrate your uniqueness. And the blue groper, I mean, I've never much heard of a blue groper before. I'm sure some fishermen might have. I'm sure those were heavily into fish. And certainly not a, excuse me, not a fish that's ever gets sold in an aquarium shop. At least I never saw them when I was retailing aquarium fish. Not even tropicals. Tropicals, freshwater, none of them. I don't know, is it a freshwater or a shallow coastal waters and reefs? So no, so it's a saltwater fish. So it's a saltwater marine. I think it's celebrate. You know, it's sort of also saying celebrate being different, unique, almost unknown. That it's okay to be that. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be unique. It's okay to be unknown. It's okay to be not well understood. Like I resisted going and doing a whole lot of deep diving into what blue gropers are and where they're found and what their life cycle is and blah, 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 because that's the non-intuitive in me. That's the scientist in me who wants to know, who sees something and wants to understand what this is all about. I might do it over Christmas, just as I'm always curious about this sort of stuff. But the blue groper is saying it's okay not to understand everything. That there's okay to be still, like I'm 63 and I'm still discovering new things all the time. Oh, never heard of that before. Never seen that animal before, or never known about that before. You know, like so many times that comes up for me. And and I suppose that the message from the blue groper is that's okay. It's okay to be that. Okay, so that's some food for thought. Let's move on to the next card. So the next card is the jellyfish. Goodness, I know jellyfish really well. So as a child, I don't now, unfortunately, but basically from birth or before birth, when I was still in my mother's tummy, we grew up at North Manly, which is like a 5-minute drive from Queenscliff, and you know, a 5-minute drive from the harbour. So Queenscliff around on the ocean next to Queenscliff is the beach next to Manly Beach, and then that's on a sort of a promontory at the bottom end of the northern beaches, and like one side is the ocean and the other side of the promontory is all the harbour beaches of Sydney Harbour. So, you know, magical place to grow up. So we spent Saturdays from basically October to at least March. Used to be from the long weekend in October, which we have here in Australia, right through to March. All of the family, all of the children of the family involved in Queenscliff Racing Club, Queenscliff. I forget what it was called now. There was a Queenscliff's got the big harbour beach, and then it's also got a harbour pool, a very nice big harbour pool, 50-metre long proper pool. And there was a club down there that used to race. You know, all the standard sort of short races. 50, I think 110 metres was probably which is double size Olympic pool. I think that was the longest distance in the Saturday morning races, but then on Wednesday nights they used to do endurance stuff. But on the Saturday morning, like basically we all grew up. My elder sister, my older brother, who were much older than me, myself, and then my younger sister. That's what we did every Saturday from October right through till March. Dad was heavily involved with the Surf Life Saving Club down there. So my brother did. He was in the Surf Life Saving Club as well, as a nipper, and then I don't think he ever actually went on to be a lifesaver. Dad certainly was in his younger years. And that sounds weird, but in that day and age, girls weren't allowed to be surf lifesavers. That happened sort of much later. So this was like 61 through to, when did I stop racing? I stopped racing in about high school, which would have been about 78 or so. So we would go down there Saturday morning and we would race all sorts of different strokes. I mean, that's how I learned to swim. I learned to swim by literally going into the babies race. Dad being in front of me initially, and then once you got good at swimming, no floaties. Once you got good at swimming, the parent would then be allowed to stand at the end of the. I think it was. When we first started, it would have been in feet, not in meters, because we went to meters during the middle of all this. And then they got to, once that you were confident, they would then be able to stand at the end of the finish line. Because remember, we couldn't stand in any of this, in any of these pools. There was no way we could stand, so it was like jump in and swim. And then on the Sundays, pretty well for about the same period of the season, we would go to church and then come back from church, change into our swimmers. Often pack some lunch, or maybe not necessarily. Sometimes it was just for the morning, usually depending on what the tide was doing. If it was a really great, low tide in the morning and high tide later on, then we would pack lunch. And us and a number of other families, mostly church families, I'm a Roman Catholic by birth, we would go down to the harbour beach, which was Fairlight. So jellyfish were a huge part of my upbringing. So were blue bottles, which are similar sort of creature, but blue bottles will sting you. I got used to inhabiting the surf and the harbour. We got more of them in the surf than we did in the harbour, out on the ocean beach than we did in the harbour. And I just got used to inhabiting my watery world with jellyfish. They're here in this part around Sydney. They're not dangerous in any way, shape, or form. They have stingers, which are probably part of the jellyfish family, and they occur further north, like up round northern Queensland. So if you go out to the Great Barrier Reef and Airlie and those places and Cairns, you can't swim in the ocean, because particularly I think it's certain times of the year, but don't quote me, because of these stingers, and they are deadly. They can kill you. So you're there. I remember when we went to Airlie, it was pretty sure it was winter when we went to Airlie, my daughter and I, like a good 20 years ago. And there's all this beautiful ocean, and you couldn't swim because it was stinger season. So all you could do was swim in these ocean pools, so long as the ocean didn't fill the pools, or the man-made pools, which was such a shame. So the word that's sitting with jellyfish doesn't seem to have come up on this card. Oh, it's down below. It's called transparency, because they are very, they've got a sort of loose, you can actually see sort of semi, often not semi. You can actually see right through a jellyfish. You can see all the internal organs of a jellyfish. They're actually beautiful creatures. I used to love snorkeling. When I'd be snorkeling, to be snorkeling through, with the jellyfish around me. That is an interesting thing that I never knew before. The white spotted jellyfish, which is obviously what this one is here, it eats by causing vibrations. It does this by beating its cup-like top, which forces krill and plankton into the sticky ribbon-like tendrils underneath the jellyfish's body, which is the bit under here. So this whole bit at the top, it's like it opens and closes and opens and closes. A bit like if you can imagine a mushroom. It's like a mushroom shape. If you can imagine a mushroom that has the ability to open, close, that's how a jellyfish gets around. Now, its transparent body also makes it harder to see as it swims within the ocean, so that keeps it safe from predators, obviously. And it reminds us that there is a need to be transparent in our actions and to be honest with others and ourselves. And that's particularly very important at Christmas time. Christmas for a lot of people is a time of joy, but for a lot of other people is a time of intense pain and sorrow. There's a lot of family conflict usually at Christmas, where often you'll have, the idea that everybody needs to get together, whether you love, hate, or indifferent about your relatives. You all need to get together and you all need to play happy families. And of course that can then break down by lunchtime or shortly after lunchtime on Christmas Day, where you all discover you don't actually like each other very much, and there's lots of anger and sometimes even domestic violence and worse. I know the EMS people, the emergency services, don't particularly like Christmas Day. And jellyfish, the jellyfish is reminding us that you need to be truthful about what you think, what your motives are. And yeah, the sort of Christmas Day is standing out very much in my memory. So why are you, why do you play happy families when maybe you're not a happy family? And you need to stand up for the truthfulness. And again, go back to the blue groper. He's reminding us that you need to stand up for your individuality. If you don't do Christmas, if you don't like Christmas, if you don't want to be part of all that stuff, then don't do it. Stand up for your rights and stand up for your individuality and say, this doesn't work for me. And jellyfish says to be honest and truthful about it. It doesn't mean you'll always say what another person wants to hear, but you're saying it in a way, you're phrasing it in a way in which it is, this is my honesty and my truth, and this is what's coming from inside of me. And I'm sorry if you don't necessarily like it, but I've got to be truthful and honest to me. And I mean, people don't necessarily like that sort of stuff. They may get pain from you saying that, but if you say it in a way of authenticity and truthfulness and honesty, then most other people are going to respect that. Don't get caught up in the string of others' honesty, especially when we discover that their motives or reasoning is not what we were led to believe it was. And this is resonating very much with the whole Christmas thing for me. And I think for probably many. The gift of the jellyfish is the ability to make your own choices based on honest and transparent sharing of information and views. It urges you not to get caught up in other people's negative opinions or views. And again, the same thing will happen if you're in that family gathering on Christmas Day or Boxing Day or maybe the period afterward, whenever your family gets together, and other people within the family are saying things about others within the family. If that's not your truth, then you don't need to either get involved in that or take on board their truth. So don't get caught up in other people's negative opinions or views. You cannot control how other people perceive you or judge you once your truth is shared. You're only obligated to be authentic, honest, and transparent about your motives when dealing with others. So, yeah, that's a tough card. That really is this at this time of year. I can't think of any other time of year, or maybe birthdays when that might also come into play. But this is a really tough card. And I suppose if we go back to the blue groper, it also says who was all about gender fluidity and being true to what you are. The jellyfish is saying own that with truthfulness and honesty, and don't get caught up with other people's opinions of that. Oh, this is deep reading. I don't know that I was quite in the mood for this, but anyway, the cards have brought what the cards have brought today. The third card, and I am doing a little bit of looking at the book on this one because, as I've said before, with this deck, I can't be quite as 100% intuitive with this deck as I can with some of the other decks I read from. So card C. Card C is the reef. Again, we're getting back to the collectiveness. So the cards have said, come back now to the collective wisdom. In this case, this is the collective wisdom of a particular ecosystem of animals and plants. I've been lucky enough to have been on Australia's beautiful Great Barrier Reef. I don't know, 1, 2, 3 times, maybe more, 4 or 5 times now over my livelihood, and it really is an amazing place. It goes for hundreds of kilometres or miles, stretches from all through, if you're thinking about the east coast of Australia, it's around on the east coast of, so I'm talking about the Great Barrier Reef, it's around on the east coast of Australia, and it stretches literally from, I don't quite know where, I think it starts, I don't quite know where it starts. It starts probably about halfway up Queensland, which is a very massive state. It's got a east coastline of probably something in the vicinity of 3,000 kilometres, and it's a big. The Great Barrier Reef is a huge thing. And it stretches right away up to at least up to Cairns and Cooktown, and probably like right up to the tip of Australia and quite possibly further up. And then I was just reminded as I said that it's not just the Great Barrier Reef here in Australia. I've been lucky enough to have snorkeled on reefs in where were we? Vanuatu. I've snorkeled on reefs in Vanuatu in a couple of places. And Fiji, I've been within reefs within Fiji. So a reef is basically an area that grows. Just trying to see, extends. I honestly don't know how reefs are formed. I really don't. I don't know what forms. All I know is you usually find them fairly close into shore. They're not a deep ocean thing. You'll find them close into shore, and they're usually an area that protects a lot of species. You'll get fish. You'll get a lot of species of fish and plants that will live within the reef. So the reef will sort of form an area that protects a part of the inland, sort of closer coastal waters from the deeper ocean, and forms like a microcosm and a microclimate. And the book points out Australia has many fertile reefs teeming with an amazing variety of aquatic flora and fauna. Of course, the most famous one is the Great Barrier Reef. Yeah, they're everywhere around the north of Australia. Even interestingly, in Sydney, what they do is they will often create artificial reefs. So within Sydney Harbour, they'll take old boats and sink them. Wonderful places to dive. I don't dive. I've never been able to scuba dive. I got disabled too young to realise that dream. Unfortunately, it was a goal of mine, but I can't now. I'm too disabled. I'll never get a license to scuba dive. You'll see beautiful footage of diving on even these artificial reefs. So what they'll do is they'll sink an old boat. In Australia, they used to sink old ferries and things to create artificial reefs. So there's sort of artificial reefs have been created within Sydney Harbour and probably elsewhere, but I certainly know more about Sydney. And of course, the Great Barrier Reef contains many threatened species that are unique to this area. It's considered a natural wonder of the world and something that should be cared for and preserved for generations to come. There's a lot of angst about it at times, where it goes through the natural change of life that all native ecosystems will, and that sometimes it starts to sort of die off and people panic. And the whole sort of thing about a reef is, and this gets back to why it was collective wisdom here within this reading, reefs are about the collective ecosystem that exists on these reefs. You'll see, if you ever dived on any of these reefs or even looked at from glass bottom boats and things like that, I've been able to snorkel and also go on glass bottom boats and then snorkel within Sydney Harbour and that sort of thing. The amount of life there is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Both plant life and animal life, particularly the areas in Vanuatu where I snorkeled, the reefs there, they were amazing, absolutely amazing. Like everywhere you looked, there was something to look at. Bright fish, amazing sea creatures, amazing fauna. They're just a real sight for sore eyes. Excuse me. So reefs remind us of abundance that is available to us in our everyday life. There's so much diversity within the structure of the reef. The waters are fertile, food is plentiful. Many different species have found a way to live together. So again, we hark back to what the groper was saying. Learn how to live together, learn how to coexist. Reefs are smaller areas. Like if you think about the reefs within the greater oceans, so there's lots of areas, but a lot of species congregate into these reefs because food is plentiful. You'll get a lot of relationships going on within the reef. Like you'll get certain fish or certain tiny insects, sea creatures sort of using a bigger fish for, you'll get the ones that you see sort of you get the bigger fish that are swimming around and the smaller fish that are picking, you know, creatures off their back. And then, of course, you'll get the bigger animals that'll come in and eat the smaller animals. And, you know, the way in which they all live together is just amazing. It's a very rich environment. Food is plentiful. Many different species have found a way to live together. When the reef card is drawn, you may find similar examples of abundance and wealth within your own life. So it's saying, look back, you know, find the abundance and wealth. Don't complain about what we don't have. And I said this to someone in a marketing context yesterday on one of the groups. Like, at the moment, our news feed is all full of all this doom and gloom. Nobody's got any money. We're all credit crisis, blah, blah, blah. Housing crisis, blah, blah, blah. Climate crisis, blah, blah, blah. You know, COVID crisis, blah, 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 that, you know, was the last few years. And I said to someone, there is a collective consciousness that says that all you do is listen to all that, then you're gonna negatively think. Your whole body is going to be affected by negativity. If instead become very much my glass is half full rather than my glass is half empty. What are the pluses that are going on at the moment? Don't listen to what particularly mainstream media is saying to you about, you know, it's all bad, 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 bad. Good doesn't sell, bad does. Therefore, that's where they get stuck. So, you know, find similar examples of abundance and wealth within your own life. And it can be quite simple. Like, I'm disabled, but today I managed to totally clip one dog. Yeah, it hurt while I did it, but, you know, clip one dog. In fact, I fully groomed 2 dogs. Did the top knot and around the eyes and on 2 other dogs and a little bit on their feet. And then celebrated the fact that that's what I got done today. Okay, there was other ones I wanted, you know, other of my dogs that I wanted to have worked on today too, but it's stinking hot. And then I managed to clean up. And then, you know, when I started today at 10 o'clock when I finally got up, it was like, oh God, I've got to do this reading this afternoon. Now I'm going to come off this reading and I'm going to celebrate the last hour of my day, not what I didn't get done all day. There's still a mountain of things I should be doing today, and I'm not going to get to most of them. But what I am going to do is focus and celebrate on what I have achieved rather than what I haven't achieved. And that's very much what I try to take into everything. I try and make my thinking about my glass is half full, not half empty. And how can I fill it? How can I take the half empty glass or half full glass, and how can I top it up? Rather than what's going to happen when I take another sip out of that glass and it now becomes less full. It's about what I can do to make that glass fuller. What can I do to make it totally full? Yes, I might need to come down a little bit on it while I expend some energy, because that's the story of my life as a disabled person. But what good did I do? What good did I do in the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, an hour, you know, half a day, a whole day? And then, of course, by the end of the year, it's looking back and saying, well, what happened this year? Yeah, okay, so some things didn't happen this year that maybe I'd want to have happened this year. Well, so be it. So find the material successes. Surround yourself with people who love and support you. Enjoy the harvest of your hard work, good food, pleasant company, or simply the opportunity to celebrate the many things that offer you feeling of richness and bounty, and taking the time to acknowledge that you're truly blessed. And we get, you know, take that too with the Christmas Day and this holiday season that's coming up. Try and see the good bits of it, not the bad bits of it. And then it goes on to say, the same can be said about the environment we live in. Within our ancient country, we have an amazing country here in Australia. It's rich in beauty and culture. It's multicultural. It's a diverse population. There's much to celebrate and share. Acknowledging the good fortunes, blessings, and wealth around us is highlighted when the reef makes an appearance. Yeah, the reef is just an amazing thing. But then so are the Kimberleys. And so is the Great Divide, which is a mountain range that runs sort of basically from Victoria right through to parts of Queensland, which is an amazing we call it a mountain range. For those overseas, it doesn't bear the, it shouldn't be a mountain. It should be more like a hill because it's not that high. We have an amazing climate here in Australia. We have an amazing, in general, an amazing attitude about life. You know, we love our barbecues outside. Yes, it's hot right now, but I can go outside and there's a beautiful ocean breeze blowing because luckily I live not too far away from the ocean. So don't dwell in the negative, dwell in the positive, and top up the positives. And I think that go back to the collective wisdom that we started with this reading. That's what the collective wisdom of the animal kingdom is saying. The animal kingdom doesn't dwell on things that have gone wrong. They just get on with it. And I've seen many examples of both native and domesticated animals. Oh, yeah, all right, whatever. And they've just got on with it. They live more in the moment. So try and live more in the moment and celebrate what you've got in the moment. Don't worry about what it was in the past. Don't worry about what it might be in the future, but try and be within the moment and try and roll more with, almost roll more with the punches, but try and see the positive in what's going on around you, rather than dwelling too much on what isn't happening. Whew, that was not a big reading in terms of time, but that felt much deeper than some of the others I've done. And that is sometimes what happens when I'm tapping into the whole animal kingdom collectiveness. It's like, oh guys, give me a break. I will be doing a theoretically, unless something goes wrong, I will be doing a reading next Sunday, the 24th. I'm not sure what I'm doing the following Sunday, the 31st, probably will. If I don't get a chance to talk to any of you between now and then, have a wonderful break, whatever that means to you. If it's Christmas, if it's a holiday, if it's just some downtime, you know, it doesn't really matter. It's whatever. And if you've got to work through, when you've got to work through, and thank you very much for, you know, keeping the world going when so many of us want to just shut up and you know, shut our jobs down and walk away. And luckily for us, some of you will work and we can still to do things like get petrol and go to the shops and go to, you know, amusements and that sort of thing. Okay, so that's enough for me for today. I'll catch you next week.
Thank you very much for being here with me today. I hope you found this enjoyable. It is for educational purposes only. If you do want a fuller reading, then I do those obviously online, so you can be anywhere in the world. Just go to petcaremagic.com and you will find the link to book a time to have a fuller animal reading. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification buttons if you want to be notified when I do more of these each week. Thank you, and I hope you all have a really great